Hey crew, it's Pitt and I am back with some more Esoterica. Today we will be diving firmly into the land of conspiracies, and so before we begin we will be talking about it. We are reading aloud from the Secret Teachings of All Ages. This is by Mr. Manly Hall. I am reading and discussing as we go along the various topics that are brought to light. Freemasons and Rosicrucians always bring out the conspiracy theories, so I am going to put this in the very beginning of it. I do not believe that they are, either one of them, aligned with evil. I do not believe that they are controlling the world. I do not believe that they are some feeder organization. There can be bad people within the groups, but generally speaking, the groups, the Fraternity of the Red Cross, which is today's particular point of interest, and the Freemasons, both seem to be very beneficial. They seem to be doing the right things in the world, and so I give them the benefit of the doubt. Can there be bad actors within it? Absolutely. Is it wrong to have a secret society? That is debatable. I don't know. There was a reason for it through the ages, because at one point in time, if you tried to do what I am doing here on this channel, they would tie you to a stake and light you on fire. Or they would strap you to a chair and throw you in the river to see if you would float with rocks in your lap. So, the need for secrecy was at one point in time a very necessary thing for anyone who was against the normal. I am very much against the normal. If you are unfamiliar with me, any of my unconventional beliefs, or if at any point in time you get lost in the sauce, everything I do is explained better in these various playlists that are linked up here and down below, along with the source material, so that you can go back and understand exactly why I stand where I stand. I have the one mother-father rule, which means that only one mother-father in the entirety of the organization needs to be a bad person. You do not need everybody to be bad. The Freemasons are set up where one person is not in control, right? He is the Grand Master of the Lodge for 1 year, and then somebody else takes the spot. There can be recruitment that happens for nefarious means inside the organizations, because if I was nefarious and I was wanting to recruit people who were nefarious, I would look for the people who are trying to do better for themselves, the people who are joining secret fraternities so that they can do better for themselves. But again, that does not mean that the entire organization is bad. Only one person in Microsoft has to be the bad guy. It just so happens that it was the one who founded it and the one who is in charge. Well, if he makes the calls and he tells this guy to do this thing, that guy's going to do that thing. That's who's paying his bills. And so he doesn't even need to know that was a nefarious act. He can deliver a package, or he can write an email, or he can do whatever it is that he is asked to do by that one mother-father. And then it is a nefarious action, but he doesn't even know that. It is the same for all of these secret societies. Well, there are exceptions, right? Some of them seem to be patently nefarious, and some of them are not. These two, the Fraternity of the Rose Cross and the Freemasons, do not appear to be, despite what you may have thought and what you may have heard. Chances are, if you are assuming that the organization is bad, you probably have not done your research. I want to make it extremely abundantly clear as well. I'm not affiliated with, nor do I attempt to be or want to be affiliated with either one of these organizations. I am a free spirit. I am out here freely giving away information that these people hold on to. You have to be inducted to get the type of information that I am relaying on this channel every single day. I am out here doing my thing because I am free from any of these associations, and I hold no oaths to any of them. So, with all of that being said, we are going to dive into the next section of the Secret Teachings of All Ages, which is the Fraternity of the Red Cross, or the Rose Cross. The Red Cross is an entirely different evil organization, and yes, I do mean that one. Who were the Rosicrucians? Were they an organization of profound thinkers, rebelling against the inquisitional religious and philosophical limitations of their time? Or were they isolated transcendentalists, united only by the similarity of their viewpoints and deductions? Where was the House of the Holy Spirit, in which, according to their manifestos, they met once a year to plan the future activities of their order? Who is the mysterious person referred to as Our illustrious father and brother, CRC. Did those three letters actually stand for the words Christian Rosicrucian? Was Christian Rosicrucian, the supposed author of the chemical nuptials, the same person who, with three others, founded the Society of the Rose Cross? What relationship existed between Rosicrucianism and medieval Freemasonry? Why were the destinies of these two organizations so closely interwoven? Is the Brotherhood of the Rose Cross the much sought-after link connecting the Freemasonry of Middle Ages with the symbolism and mysticism of antiquity? And are its secrets being perpetuated by modern Masonry? Did the original Rosicrucian order disintegrate in the latter part of the 18th century? Or does society still exist as an organization maintaining the same secrecy for which it was originally famous? What was the true purpose for which the Brotherhood of the Rose Cross was formed? Were the Rosicrucians a religious and philosophic brotherhood, as they claimed to be? Or were their avowed tenets a blind to conceal the true object of the fraternity, which possibly was the political control of Europe? These are some of the problems involved in the study of Rosicrucianism. There are four distinct theories regarding the Rosicrucian enigma. Each is the result of a careful consideration of the evidence by scholars who have spent their lives ransacking the archives of Hermetic lore. The conclusions reached demonstrate clearly the inadequacy of the records available concerning the genesis and early activities of the Brethren of the Rose Cross. The first postulate, or question. It is assumed that the Rosicrucian order existed historically in accordance with the description of its foundation and subsequent activities published in its manifesto, the Fama Fraternitatis, which is believed to have been written in the year 1610, but apparently did not appear in print until 1614, although an earlier edition is suspected by some authorities. Intelligent consideration of the origin of Rosicrucianism requires a familiarity with the contents of the first and most important of its documents. The Fama Fraternitatis begins with a reminder to all the world of God, God's goodness and mercy. It warns the intelligentsia that their egotism and covetousness will cause them to follow after false prophets and to ignore the true knowledge which God, in His goodness, has revealed to them. Hence, a reformation is necessary, and God has raised up philosophers and sages for this purpose. In order to assist in bringing about the Reformation, a mysterious person called the highly illuminated Father CRC, a German by birth, descended of a noble family, but himself a poor man, instituted the Secret Society of the Rose Cross. CRC was placed in a cloister when he was only 5 years of age, but later becoming dissatisfied with its educational system, he associated himself with a brother of holy orders who was setting forth on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. They started out together, but the brother died at Cyprus and CRC continued alone to Damascus. Poor health prevented him from reaching Jerusalem, so he remained at Damascus, studying with the philosophers who dwelt there. While pursuing his studies, he heard of a group of mystics and Kabbalists abiding in the mystic Arabian city of Damcar. Giving up his desire to visit Jerusalem, he arranged with the Arabians for his transportation to Damcar. CRC was but 16 years of age when he arrived at Damcar. He was received as one who had been long expected, a comrade and a friend in philosophy, and was instructed in the secrets of the Arabian adepts. While there, CRC learned the Arabic tongue and translated the sacred book M into Latin. And upon returning to Europe, he brought this important volume with him. After studying 3 years in Damcar, CRC departed for the city of Fez, where the Arabian magicians declared further information would be given him. At Fez, he was instructed how to communicate with the elementary inhabitants, probably the nature spirits, and these disclosed to him many other great secrets of nature. While the philosophers in Fez were not so great as those in Damkar, the previous experiences of CRC enabled him to distinguish the true from the false, and thus greatly add to his store of knowledge. After 2 years in Fez, CRC sailed for Spain, carrying with him many treasures, among them rare plants and animals accumulated during his wanderings. He fondly hopes that the learned men of Europe would receive with gratitude the rare intellectual and material treasures which he had brought for their consideration. Instead, he encountered only ridicule, for the so-called wise were afraid to admit their previous ignorance, lest their prestige be impaired. At this point in the narrative is an interpolation stating that Paracelsus, while not a member of the Fraternity of the Rose Cross, had read the book M, and from a consideration of its contents had secured information which made him the foremost physician of medieval Europe. And it is important to note that this still happens today. The so-called wise are afraid to admit their previous ignorance. It happens every single day in the peer review process. If you are unaware, the peer review process is a gate. It is keeping knowledge from people, and that is, at this point, an indisputable fact. There are definitely alternate considerations that are not allowed to come to light because the doctors who are say that you cannot do. They will not approve your peer review. They will not allow it to be published in a journal. They will not allow the science to be reproduced. That is a literal thing that happens, whether you like to believe that or not. Tired, but not discouraged. As the result of the fruitlessness of his efforts, CRC returned to Germany, where he built a house in which he could quietly carry on his study and research. He also manufactured a number of rare scientific instruments for research purposes. While he could have made himself famous had he cared to commercialize his knowledge, he preferred the companionship of God to the esteem of men. After 5 years of retirement, he decided to renew his struggle for a reformation of the arts and sciences of his day, this time with the aid of a few trusted friends. He sent to the cloister where his early training had been received and called to himself 3 brethren, whom he bound by an oath to preserve inviolate the secrets he should impart and to write down for the sake of posterity the information he should dictate. These 4 founded the Fraternity of the Rose Cross. They prepared its secret cipher language, and according to the Fama, a great dictionary in which all forms of wisdom were classified to the glorification of God. They also began the work of transcribing the book M, but found the task too difficult because of the demands of the great numbers of sick who came to them for healing. This is the Golden and Rosy Cross from Geheime Figuren der Rosicrucian. And we will take this one for the thumbnail. Y'all know how we do that. And you are welcome to come back and browse this. I do not read German, so I am not going to be a whole lot of benefit for you in that. It is said of this cross that it is made of spiritual gold, and that each brother wears it upon his breast. It bears the alchemical symbols of salt, sulfur, and mercury, also a star of the planets. And around it are the 4 words, faith, hope, love, and patience. The double-headed eagle, or phoenix, subtly foreshadows the ultimate androgynous state of the human creature. Rosicrucian alchemy was not concerned with metals alone. Man's own body was the alchemical laboratory, and none could reach Rosicrucian adeptship until he had performed the supreme experiment of transmutation, by changing the base metals of ignorance into the pure gold of wisdom and understanding. Having completed a newer and larger building, which they called the House of the Holy Spirit, they decided to include 4 new members in the fraternity, thus increasing the number to 8, 7 of whom were German. Wow, that's interesting. All were married. Working industriously together, they speedily completed the arduous labor of preparing the documents, instructions, and arcana of the order. They also put the house called Sancti Spiritus in order. They then decided to separate and visit the other countries of the earth, not only that their wisdom might be given to others who deserved it, but also that they might check and correct any mistakes existing in their own system. Before separating, the brethren prepared 6 rules or bylaws, and each bound himself to obey them. The first rule was that they should take to themselves no other dignity or credit than that they were willing to heal the sick without charge. The second was from that time on, forever, they should wear no special robe or garment, but should dress according to the custom of the country wherein they dwelt. That separates them from Freemasonry. The third stated that every year, upon a certain day, they should meet in the house of the Holy Spirit, or, if unable to do so, should be represented by an epistle. The fourth decreed that each member should search for a worthy person to succeed him at his own demise. The fifth stated that the letters RC should be their seal, mark, and character from that time onward, and the sixth specified that the fraternity should remain unknown to the world for a period of 100 years. After they had sworn to this code, 5 of the brothers departed to distant lands, and a year later 2 of the others also went their way, leaving Father CRC alone in the house of the Holy Spirit. Year after year they met with great joy, for they had quietly and sincerely promulgated their doctrines among the wise of the earth. When the first of the order died in England, it was decided that the burial places of the members should be secret. Soon afterwards, Father CRC called the remaining 6 together, and it is supposed that when he prepared his own symbolic tomb. The Fama records that none of the brothers alive at the time of its writing knew when Father CRC died or where he was buried. His body was accidentally discovered 120 years after his death, when one of the brothers, who possessed considerable architectural skill, decided to make some alterations in the house of the Holy Spirit. It is only suspected that the tomb was in this building. While making his alterations, the brother discovered a memorial tablet, upon which were inscribed the names of the early members of the order. This he decided to transfer to a more imposing chapel, for at that time no one knew in what country Father CRC had died, this information having been concealed by the original members. In attempting to remove the memorial tablet, which was held in place by a large nail, some stones and plastering were broken from the wall, disclosing a door concealed in the masonry. The members of the order immediately cleared away the rest of the debris and uncovered the entrance to a vault. Upon the door, in large letters, were the words, Post Annos Patibo. That is 120. This, according to the mystic interpretation of the brethren, meant, in 120 years I shall come forth. I am sure that is just a coincidence, right? The following morning the door was opened, and the members entered a vault with 7 sides and 7 corners. Imagine that. Each side 5 feet broad and 8 feet high. Although the sun never penetrated this tomb, it was brilliantly illuminated by a mysterious light in the ceiling. In the center was a circular altar, upon which were brass plates engraved with strange characters. In each of the 7 sides was a small door, which, upon being opened, revealed a number of boxes filled with books, secret instructions, and the supposedly lost arcanum of the fraternity. Upon moving the altar to one side, a brass cover was disclosed. Lifting this revealed a body, presumably that of CRC, which, although it had lain there for 120 years, was as well preserved as though it had just been interred. It was ornamented and attired in the robes of the order. They didn't have special robes, remember? And in one hand was clasped a mysterious parchment, which, next to the Bible, was the most valued possession of the society. After thoroughly investigating the contents of the secret chamber, the brass plate and altar were put back in place, the door of the vault was again sealed, and the brothers went their respective ways, their spirits raised and their faith increased by the miraculous spectacle which they had beheld. The document ends by saying, in effect, in accordance with the will of the Father CRC, the Fama has been prepared and sent forth to the wise and learned of all Europe in 5 languages, that all may know and understand the secrets of the august fraternity. All of sincere soul who labor for the glory of God are invited to communicate with the brethren, and are promised that their appeal shall be heard, regardless of where they are or how the messages are sent. At the same time, those of selfish and ulterior motives are warned. that only sorrow and misery will attend any who attempt to discover the fraternity without a clean heart and a pure mind. Such, in brief, is the story of the Fama Fraternitatis. Those who accept it literally regard Father CRC as the actual founder of the Brotherhood, which he is believed to have organized about 1400. The fact that historical corroboration of the important parts of the Fama has never been discovered is held against this theory. There is no proof that Father CRC ever approached the learned men of Spain. The mysterious city of Damcar cannot be found, and there is no record anywhere in Germany that there existed a place where the great numbers of the halt and sick came and were mysteriously healed. A.E. White's The Secret Tradition in Freemasonry contains a picture of Father CRC, showing him with a long beard upon his breast, sitting before a table upon which burns a candle. One hand is supporting his head, and the other is resting the tip of his index finger on the temple of a human skull. This picture, however, see plate at the head of the chapter, proves nothing. Father CRC was never seen by other than members of his own order, and they did not preserve a description of him. That his name was Christian Rosicrucian is most improbable, as the two were not even associated until the writing of the chemical nuptials. The second postulate. Those Masonic brethren who have investigated the subject accept the historical existence of the Brotherhood of the Rose Cross, but are divided concerning the origin of the order. One group holds the society originated in medieval Europe as an outgrowth of alchemical speculation. Robert McCoy, 33rd degree, believes that Johann Valentin André, a German theologian, was the true founder, and he also believes it possible that this divine merely reformed and amplified an existing society which had been founded by Sir Henry Cornelius Agrippa. Some believe that Rosicrucianism represented the first European invasion of Buddhist and Brahmin culture. Still others hold the opinion that the Society of the Rose Cross was founded in Egypt during the philosophic supremacy of that empire, and that it also perpetuated the mysteries of ancient Persia and Chaldea. In his Anacalypsis, Godfrey Higgins writes, "The Rosicrucians of Germany are quite ignorant of their origin, but, by tradition, they suppose themselves descendants of the ancient Egyptians, Chaldeans, Magi, and Gymnosophists." The last was a name given by the followers of Alexander the Great to a caste of naked wise men whom they found meditating along the riverbanks in India. The consensus among these factions is that the story of Father CRC, like the Masonic legend of Hiram Abiff, is an allegory and should not be considered literally. A similar problem has confronted students of the Bible, who have found not only difficult, but in the majority of cases impossible, their efforts to substantiate the historical interpretations of the Scriptures. There is a reason for that, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should definitely check out the Unconventional Bible Study. It's long, but it is detailed. Admitting the existence of the Rosicrucians as a secret society with both philosophic and political ends, it is remarkable that an organization with members in all parts of Europe could maintain absolute secrecy throughout the centuries. Nevertheless, the Brothers of the Rose Cross were apparently able to accomplish this. A great number of scholars and philosophers, among them Sir Francis Bacon and Wolfgang van Goethe, have been suspected of affiliation with the order, but their connection has not been established to the satisfaction of prosaic historians. Pseudo-Rosicrucians abounded, but the true members of the ancient and secret order of the unknown philosophers have successfully lived up to their name. To this day they remain unknown. During the Middle Ages, a number of tracts appeared, purporting to be from the pen of Rosicrucians. Many of them, however, were spurious, being issued for their self-aggrandizement by unscrupulous persons who used the revered and magic name Rosicrucian in the hope of gaining religious or political power. This has greatly complicated the work of investigating the society. One group of pseudo-Rosicrucians went so far as to supply its members with a black cord by which they were to know each other, and warned them that if they broke their vow of secrecy, the cord would be used to strangle them. Few of the principles of Rosicrucianism has been preserved in literature, for the original fraternity published only fragmentary accounts of its principles and activities. We have the crucified rose. The original symbol of the Rosicrucian fraternity was a hieroglyphic rose crucified upon a cross. This cross was often raised upon a three-stepped Calvary. Occasionally, the symbol of the cross rising from a rose was used in connection with their activities. The Rosicrucian rose was drawn upon the round table of King Arthur and is the central motif for the links forming the chain from which the Great George is suspended among the jewels of the Order of the Garter. Hargrave Jennings suspects this order of having some connection with the Rosicrucians. In his Secret Symbols of the Rosicrucians, Dr. Franz Hartmann describes the fraternity as a secret society of men possessing superhuman, if not supernatural, powers. They were said to be able to prophesy future events, to penetrate into the deepest mysteries of nature, to transform iron, copper, lead, or mercury into gold, to prepare an elixir of life, or universal panacea, by the use of which they could preserve their youth and manhood. And moreover, it was believed that they could command the elemental spirits of nature, and knew the secret of the philosopher's stone, a substance which rendered him who possessed it an all-powerful, immortal, and supremely wise. I'm going to go ahead and break in here and let you know that man was never meant to be immortal. There is no way to make yourself immortal through good means. Any attempt to extend your life is inherently bad. That doesn't mean naturally, right? That doesn't mean exercise and taking care of yourself and eating well. It doesn't even mean taking blood pressure medicine to some degree. But if you are desperately clinging to this life to the point of which you are trying to develop an elixir to extend your life forever, you are pursuing something evil, and you need to be aware of that. That goes for any society and any person. Death is a natural part of the human existence, and while we are here, we are meant to fully embrace our life and to love it and to want it to continue. You are not supposed to try to cheat death, and doing so is wrong in all circumstances. The same author further defines a Rosicrucian as a person who, by the process of spiritual awakening, has attained a practical knowledge of the secret significance of the rose and the cross. To call a person a Rosicrucian does not make him one, nor does the act of calling a person a Christian make him a Christ. The real Rosicrucian, or Mason, cannot be made. He must grow into one by the expansion and unfoldment of the divine power within his own heart. The inattention to this truth is the cause that many churches and secret societies are far from being that which their names express. The symbolic principles of Rosicrucianism are so profound that even today they are little appreciated. Their charts and diagrams are concerned with weighty cosmic principles, which they treat with a philosophic understanding decidedly refreshing when compared with the orthodox narrowness prevalent in their day. According to the available records, the Rosicrucians were bound together by mutual aspirations, rather than by the laws of a fraternity. The Brothers of the Rose Cross are believed to have lived unobtrusively, laboring industriously in trades and professions, disclosing their secret affiliation to no one, in many cases not even to their own families. After the death of CRC, most of the brethren apparently had no central meeting place. Whatever initiatory ritual the order possessed was so closely guarded that it has never been revealed. Doubtless it was couched in chemical terminology. Efforts to join the order were apparently futile, for the Rosicrucians always chose their disciples, which sets them again at odds with Freemasonry. Having agreed on one who they believed would do honor to their illustrious fraternity, they communicated with him in one of many mysterious ways. He might receive a letter, either anonymous or with a peculiar seal, usually bearing the letters CRC or RC upon it. He would be instructed to go to a certain place at an appointed time. What was disclosed to him he never revealed, although in many cases his later writings showed that a new influence had come into his life, deepening his understanding and broadening his intellect. A few have written allegorically concerning what they beheld when the august presence of the Brethren of the Rose Cross. Alchemists were sometimes visited in their laboratories by mysterious strangers who delivered learned discourses concerning the secret processes of the hermetic arts, and after disclosing certain processes, departed, leaving no trace. Others declared that the Brothers of the Rose Cross communicated with them through dreams and visions, revealing the secret of hermetic wisdom to them while they were asleep. Having been instructed, the candidate was bound to secrecy not only concerning the chemical formulae which had been disclosed to him, but also concerning the method by which he had secured them. While these nameless adepts were suspected of being Brothers of the Rose Cross, it could never be proved who they were, and those visited could only conjecture. Many suspect the Rosicrucian rose to be a conventionalization of the Egyptian and Hindu lotus blossom, with the same symbolic meaning as this more ancient symbol. The Divine Comedy stamps Dante Alighieri as being familiar with the theory of Rosicrucianism. I have done Dante's Inferno in all three parts if you are interested. Concerning this point, Albert Pike in his Morals and Dogma makes this significant statement. His hell is but a negative purgatory. His heaven is composed of a series of Kabbalistic circles divided by a cross like the Pantacle of Ezekiel. In the center of this cross blooms a rose, and we see the symbols of the adepts of the Rose Cross for the first time publicly expounded and almost categorically explained. We're going to pause and just briefly talk about the Inferno because I did it not having ever read it before, much like I'm doing this, and we talked about it. And in the first part, which was hell, I didn't really understand what was going on. It was talking about these circles, but it was always about the hell that you create. The thing that you believed was going to happen is what was actually happening. And then we got to the second one, right? Purgatory. Purgatory was, in my estimation, a path to ascension, a path to overcoming, the path that you need to take in many parts. It was not clearly defined, but it was fairly clearly defined, and I had some keys to unlock certain doors along the way. And then we got to heaven. It was again like hell. It was the heaven you create. It's an interesting read, and you are more than welcome to go back and see my thoughts on it, and it is definitely something to check out. If you're interested in this type of stuff, you will probably enjoy it. Doubt has always existed as to whether the name Rosicrucian came from the symbol of the rose and cross, or whether this was merely a blind to deceive the uninformed and further conceal the true meaning of the order. Godfrey Higgins believes that the word Rosicrucian was not derived from the flower, but from the word ros, which means dew. It is also interesting to note that the word ras means wisdom, while rus is translated concealment. Doubtless all of these meanings have contributed to Rosicrucian symbolism. A. E. White holds with Godfrey Higgins that the process of forming the Philosopher's Stone with the aid of dew is the secret concealed within the name Rosicrucian. It is possible that the dew referred to is a mysterious substance within the human brain, closely resembling the description given by alchemists of the dew, which, falling from heaven, redeemed the earth. The cross is symbolic of the human body, and the two symbols together, the rose on the cross, signify that the soul of man is crucified upon the body, where it is held by 3 nails. It is entirely possible that the dew intimated here is DMT. I'm just going to throw that out there. You can make your body produce DMT through processes that I have not fully outlined for you yet, but that are absolutely intimated in most of my videos. It is probable that Rosicrucian symbolism is a perpetuation of the secret tenets of the Egyptian Hermes, and that the secret society of unknown philosophers is the true link connecting modern masonry with its massive symbols to ancient Egyptian Hermeticism, the source of that symbolism. In his Doctrine and Literature of the Kabbalah, A. E. White makes this important observation. There are certain indications which point to a possible connection between Masonry and Rosicrucianism, and this, if admitted, would constitute the first link in its connection with the past. The evidence is, however, inconclusive, or at least unextricated. Freemasonry, per se, in spite of the affinity with mysticism which I have just mentioned, was never exhibited with any mystic character, nor has it a clear notion how it came by its symbols. Many of those connected with the development of Freemasonry were suspected of being Rosicrucians. Some, as in the case of Robert Flood, even wrote defenses of this organization. Frank C. Higgins, a modern Masonic symbologist, writes, Dr. Ashmole, a member of this fraternity, Rosicrucian, is revered by Masons as one of the founders of the first Grand Lodge in London. See Ancient Freemasonry. Elias Ashmole is but one of many intellectual links connecting Rosicrucianism with the genesis of Freemasonry. The Encyclopedia Britannica notes that Elias Ashmole was initiated into the Freemasonic Order in 1646, and further states that he was the first gentleman, or amateur, to be accepted. On this same subject, Papus, in his Tarot of the Bohemians, has written, we must not forget that the Rosicrucians were the initiators of Leibniz, and the founders of actual Freemasonry through Ashmole. If the founders of Freemasonry were initiated in the great arcanum of Egypt, and the modern symbolism of modern Masonry would indicate that such was the case, then it is reasonable to suppose that they secured their information from a society whose existence they admitted and which was duly qualified to teach them the symbols or allegories. That is an assumption, right? We don't have records of that. There is a very long pause between the Hermetic arts and Masonry appearing. It was just stated that they did not know where their symbolism came from, and for the most part, from what I have been able to determine, they do not even understand their own symbolism. So, there's that. Also, we have here, by the 6 principles by which the Rosicrucians were supposed to have been formed, direct contradictions to the things that you find in Freemasonry. You have to wear your little apron thing, right? You have to follow the forms and procedures in a way that was not in accordance with the Rosicrucians. So if it was founded by a Rosicrucian, he broke from his own tradition. One theory concerning the two orders is to the effect that Freemasonry was an outgrowth of Rosicrucianism. In other words, that the unknown philosophers became known through an organization which they created to serve them in the material world. The story goes on to relate that the Rosicrucian adepts became dissatisfied with their progeny and silently withdrew from the Masonic hierarchy, leaving behind their symbolism and allegories, but carrying away the keys by which the locked symbols could be made to give tip to their secret meanings. Speculators have gone so far as to state that, in their opinion, modern Freemasonry has completely absorbed Rosicrucianism and succeeded it as the world's greatest secret society. Other minds of equal learning declare that the Rosicrucian Brotherhood still exists, preserving its individuality as the result of having withdrawn from the Masonic Order. According to widely accepted tradition, the headquarters of the Rosicrucian Order is near Carlsbad in Austria. See Dr. Franz Hartmann. Another version has it that a mysterious school, resembling in general principles the Rosicrucian fraternity, which calls itself the Bohemian Brothers, still maintains its individuality in the Schwarzwald, Black Forest, of Germany. One thing is certain. With the rise of Freemasonry, the Rosicrucian order in Europe practically disappeared. And, notwithstanding existing statements to the contrary, it is certain that the 18th degree, commonly known as the Rose Croix, perpetuates many of the symbols of the Rosicrucian fire alchemists. In an anonymous, unpublished manuscript of the 18th century bearing the earmarks of Rosicrucian Kabbalism appears this statement: Yet will I now give the overwise world a paradox to be solved. namely, that some illuminated men have undertaken to found schools of wisdom in Europe, and these, for some peculiar reason, have called themselves Fratres Rosicrucis. But soon afterwards came false schools into existence and corrupted the good intentions of these wise men. Therefore, the order no longer exists as most people would understand existence. And as this fraternity of the Seculophili call themselves Brothers of the Rosy Cross, so also will they in the Seculo Spiritus Sancti call themselves Brothers of the Lily Cross and the Knights of the White Lion. Then will the schools of wisdom begin again to blossom. But why the first one chose their name and why the others shall also choose theirs, only those can solve who have understanding grounded in nature. The Rosicrucian rose, the victory in Christ. I think that's as close as I can get to that. From Geheim Figuren de Rosenkreutzer. The rose is a yonic symbol associated with generation, fecundity, and purity. The fact that flowers blossom by unfolding has caused them to be chosen as symbolic of spiritual unfoldment. The red color of the rose refers to the blood of Christ, and the golden heart concealed within the midst of the flower corresponds to the spiritual gold concealed within the human nature. The number of its petals, being 10, is also a subtle reminder of the perfect Pythagorean number. The rose symbolizes the heart, and the heart has always been accepted by Christians as emblematic of the virtues of love and compassion, as well as the nature of Christ, the personification of these virtues. The rose as a religious emblem is of great antiquity. It was accepted by the Greeks as a symbol of the sunrise, or the coming of dawn. In his metamorphosis, or golden ass, Apuleius, turned into a donkey because of his foolishness, regained his human shape by eating a sacred rose given to him by the Egyptian priests. The presence of a hieroglyphic rose upon the escutcheon of Martin Luther has been the basis of much speculation as to whether any connection existed between his Reformation and the secret activities of the Rose Cross. Political aspirations of the Rosicrucians were expressed through the activities of Sir Francis Bacon, the Comte de Saint-Germain, and the Comte de Cagliostro. The last named is suspected of having been an emissary of the Knights Templars, a society deeply involved in transcendentalism, as Eliphas Levi has noted. There is a popular supposition to the effect that the Rosicrucians were at least partial instigators of the French Revolution. Note particularly the introduction to Lord Bulwer Lytton's Rosicrucian novel, Zanoni. The third postulate. The third theory takes the form of a sweeping denial of Rosicrucianism, asserting that the so-called original order never had any foundation in fact, but was entirely a product of imagination. This viewpoint is best expressed by a number of questions which are still being asked by investigators of this exclusive group of metaphysicians. Was the Brotherhood of the Rose Cross merely a mythical institution created in the fertile mind of some literary cynic for the purpose of deriding the alchemical and hermetic sciences? Did the House of the Holy Spirit ever exist outside the imagination of some medieval mystic? Was the whole Rosicrucian story a satire to ridicule the gullibility of scholastic Europe? Was the mysterious Father C.R.C. a product of the literary genius of Johann Valentin André, or another of similar mind, who, attempting to score alchemical and hermetical philosophy, unwittingly became a great power in furthering the cause of its promulgation? That at least one of the early documents of the Rosicrucians was from the pen of André, there is little doubt, but for just what purpose he compiled it still remains a matter of speculation. Did André himself receive from some unknown person or persons instructions to be carried out? If he wrote the chemical nuptials of Christian Rosenkreutz when only 15 years old, was he overshadowed in the preparation of that book? To these vital questions, no answers are forthcoming. A number of persons accepted the magnificent imposture of Andre as absolute truth. It is maintained by many that, as a consequence, numerous pseudo-societies sprang up, each asserting that it was the organization concerning which the Fama Fraternatus and the Confessio Fraternatus were written. Beyond doubt, there are many spurious orders in existence today, but few of them can offer valid claims that their history dates back further than the beginning of the 19th century. The mystery associated with the Rosicrucian fraternity has resulted in endless controversy. Many able minds, notable among them Eugenius Filiathes, Michael Meyer, John Hayden, and Robert Flood, defended the concrete existence of the Society of Unknown Philosophers. Others, equally qualified, have asserted it to be of fraudulent origin and doubtful existence. Eugenius Filiathes, while dedicating books to the order, and himself writing an extended exposition of its principles, disclaims all personal connection with it. Many others have done likewise. Some of us are of the opinion that Sir Francis Bacon had a hand in the writing of Fama and Confessio Fraternatus, on the basis that the rhetorical style of these works is similar to that of Bacon's New Atlantis. They also contend that certain statements in the latter work point to an acquaintance with Rosicrucian symbology. The elusiveness of the Rosicrucians has caused them to be a favorite subject for literary works. Outstanding among the romances which have been woven around them is Zanoni. The author, Lord Bulwer Lytton, is regarded by some as a member of the order, while others assert that he applied for membership but was rejected. Pope's Rape of the Lock and Comte de Gaulis by Abbe de Villars, and essays by De Quincey, Hartman, Jennings, Mackenzie, and others are examples of Rosicrucian literature. Although the existence of these medieval Rosicrucians is difficult to prove, sufficient evidence is at hand to make it extremely probable that there existed in Germany, and afterwards in France, Italy, England, and other European countries, a secret society of illuminated savants who made contributions of great import to the sum of human knowledge, while maintaining absolute secrecy concerning their personalities and their organization. The fourth postulate. The apparent incongruities of the Rosicrucian controversy have also been accounted for by a purely transcendental explanation. There is evidence that early writers were acquainted with such a supposition, which, however, was popularized only after it had been espoused by Theosophy. This theory asserts that the Rosicrucians actually possessed all the supernatural powers with which they were credited, that they were, in reality, citizens of two worlds, that while they had physical bodies for expression on the material plane, that they are also capable, through the instructions they received from the Brotherhood, of functioning in a mysterious ethereal body not subject to the limitations of time or distance. By means of this astral form, they were able to function in the invisible realm of nature, and in this realm, beyond the reach of the profane, their temple was located. I do not discount that at all. I have traveled in the ethereal world. According to this viewpoint, the true Rosicrucian Brotherhood consisted of a limited number of highly developed adepts or initiates, those of the higher degrees being no longer subject to the laws of morality. Candidates were accepted into the order only after long periods of probation. Adepts possessed the secret of the Philosopher's Stone and knew the process of transmuting the base metals into gold, but taught that these were only allegorical terms, concealing the true mystery of human regeneration through the transmutation of the base elements of man's lower nature into the gold of intellectual and spiritual realization. According to this theory, those who have sought to record the events of importance in connection with the Rosicrucian controversy have invariably failed because they approach their subject from a purely physical or materialistic angle. These adepts were believed to have been able to teach man how to function away from his physical body at will by assisting him to remove the rose from the cross. They taught that the spiritual nature was attached to the material form at certain points, symbolized by the nails of the crucifixion, but by 3 alchemical initiations which took place in the spiritual world. In the true temple of the Rose Cross, they were able to draw these nails and permit the divine man to come down from its cross. They concealed the processes by which this was accomplished under three alchemical metaphoric expressions. Sorry. The casting of the molten sea, the making of the rose diamond, sorry, and the achieving of the philosopher's stone. While the intellectualist flounders among contradictory theories, the mystic treats the problem in an entirely different manner. He believes that the true Rosicrucian fraternity, consisting of a school of supermen, not unlike the fabled Mahatmas of India, is an institution existing not in the visible world but in spiritual counterpart, which he sees fit to call the inner planes of nature. That the brothers can be reached only by those who are capable of transcending the limitations of the material world. To substantiate their viewpoint, these mystics cite the following significant statement from Confessio Fraternatis. 1,000 times the unworthy may clamor, 1,000 times may present themselves, yet God hath commanded our ears that they should hear none of them, and hath so compassed us about with his clouds that unto us, his servants, no violence can be done. Wherefore now no longer are we beheld by human eyes, unless they have received strength borrowed from the eagle. In mysticism, the eagle is a symbol of initiation, the spinal spirit fire, and by this is explained the inability of the unregenerated world to understand the secret order of the Rose Cross. Those professing this theory regarded the Comte de Saint-Germain as their highest adept and asserted that he and Christian Rosenkreutz were one and the same individual. They accept fire as their universal symbol because it was the one element by means of which they could control the metals. They declared themselves the descendants of Tubal-Cain and Hiram Abiff, and that the purpose of their existence was to preserve the spiritual nature of man through ages of materiality. The Gnostic sects, the Arabs, Alchemists, Templars, Rosicrucians, and lastly the Freemasons, form the Western chain in the transmission of occult science. C. The Tarot of the Bohemians, translated by A. E. White from the French of Papoose. Max Heindel, the Christian mystic, described the Rosicrucian temple as an etheric structure located in and around the home of a European country gentleman. He believed that this invisible building would ultimately be moved to the American continent. Mr. Heindel refers to the Rosicrucian initiates as so advanced in the science of life that death had forgotten them. The crest of Johann Valentin André. Click to enlarge. This is the crest. From Crimisi Hochstein. The reference to 4 red roses and a white cross in the chemical marriage of Christian Rosenkreutz identified Johann Valentin André as its author, for his family crest, shown above, consisted of 4 red roses and a white cross. So, okay. And so that ends this section. Next up will be Rosicrucian doctrines and tenets. And I'm going to take just a minute to talk about something. I have mentioned before, and I will most certainly mention again, that I am actually a member of a society. I have not yet met any other members of that. I am inducted into the Order of Melchizedek. That happened on an etheric level. I was there. Something happened. I was named. There was given to me a word. There was processes involved, and things changed in my life. I was able to do things that most people can't, including the releasing of the DMT through the processes by which I somewhat described already. You can affect yourself very much so on the electromagnetic field. Right? I do believe that everything is a harmonic. It is held in place according to the laws of physics, but that you can manipulate some of those forces simply through the power of your mind. The ones that are contained within you, you have full access to if you are disciplined, if you take the time to pray, fast, and meditate, and are enlightened in the way that I have been, then you can get access to. I do not know all of the requirements. I was not given that. I am not able to induct anyone else. I can, however, identify anyone else. So if you come and you're lying, I will know it like really quick, because there is something that was given that we can identify within each other. But I have not found anyone else. I have not even found anyone else claiming or purporting to be that way. And so I am here alone in a secret society. We are not nefarious. It is an enlightenment society. It is about the free dispensation of knowledge. All of these things were part of the instructions given to me, so I can say that. But I am not part of an earthly secret society. I do not discount this last part in any way other than the cross reference, because that is an unnecessary step as far as I am aware. There is no drawing out of the nails. There is a process. It is involving the numbers that we talk about quite extensively over here, and it is something that you can do freely through practice. It is not something that I hold the exclusivity to and never will. As far as I am aware, anyone can do any of the things that I can do. You just have to apply yourself, and most people are not willing to do so. I have effected change within my own body in a clearly definable way. You can go back and see it happening. When I started this channel, I was unable to talk for more than 15 minutes at a time. I had to modulate my voice quite heavily because I had a cyst in my throat. Since then, I have removed the cyst. It is through the assistance of God. Never get that twisted. But He has given me the powers of manifestation. I choose to use those powers in the way in which I have been instructed, which means that I am not using them for monetary gain. I am using them for the free dissemination of information so that more people can become enlightened. That is the entire goal of what I do over here. It is the reason why we are going through this step by step, and we are talking about each and every chapter in this particular book. There will be more books where they talk about things in different ways, and we will clarify everywhere we can with things that I know to be true. I have zero problems offending anyone with things that I know to be untrue by calling them out, and I will point out the things that I know are untrue and the things that I know are true. Hopefully I have established that track record already, and hopefully you have begun the process of finding these things on your own, because that is the ultimate goal. You can listen to me all day, but if you do not take the time to pray, fast, and meditate in the manner in which it is necessary to do, you will never achieve these things. Chances are that if you are a part of any of these secret societies, as far as I know, you also are not getting there. That doesn't mean that you can't, it just means that you are severely restricted by the laws by which you operate under. It is true for all of the control systems. All of the control systems. All of the control systems. It doesn't matter which one. You can be talking about Brahmanism. You can be talking about Taoism. You can be talking about Buddhism. You can be talking about Christianity. You can be talking about Judaism, or you can be talking about any of these secret societies. The laws by which you restrict yourself will hold you back from the things which you were meant to do. I fully believe that all of the control systems were put in place to prevent you from actually realizing the things that you are meant to do. Hopefully, I have made that abundantly clear as we go through these things as well. I do, in fact, believe that Judaism was based upon keeping people bound. I have significant evidence of that. We went through 161 videos where I talk about my personal beliefs on that. The Unconventional Bible Study will take you step by step through a process of discovering things. These Esoterica videos do the same thing. All of these videos are aimed at the same points, right? I have goals. Some of them are financial. I could manifest money. I will not do that. It will not happen. When God is ready for the funds to appear, then they will appear. And if they never do, then they never will. That will not be part of my manifestation. The manifestation that I do is simply for knowledge and for dispensing of knowledge, and that is how it works. I mean, health. I manifest health for myself in many ways, not just the one that is evident to you. And so take it with a grain of salt. You don't have to believe me. I'm not here to convince you. I am here to tell you. You are capable of more than you have been told, and that is absolute fact. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a series of somewhat difficult topics. I understand that I have a tendency to step on toes when I relay information, and while I do not do it on purpose, I do not apologize for it. If you like what I'm doing over here, let me know down below. Give me a like, share, and a sub, throw me a comment, and if you really like what I'm doing, hit me with that super thanks, because I'm not a communist and I'm not manifesting money. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pitt's Take. Peace.